Recording in progress.
Okay, we are recording and we are ready to go whenever you are.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Parks and Trails Commission work session, June 16th. Roll call, I'm going to have everybody just say their names because I might have forgotten some people's names. Sharon Meister,
Philip Christensen.
Michelle Friedrich. Lisa Weifels.
Judy Strahler.
okay. All right, City Park Remaster discussion.
Okay, so first of all, thank you guys for making it. I know that this is earlier than normal and that can be a little challenging, so I appreciate it. In front of you, I have provided a laminated sheet of the proposed phase one. I also included a knockoff Expo marker. One of you might have gotten a brand name. Congratulations. And you also have a Sharpie. So my idea for this is we can walk through what I've included in the packet with the feedback that was provided from people in the public. We only had one person that was not a resident that provided feedback. I did want to include that just because I don't know how they came across the survey or why they filled it out, but it was still feedback, so that is included. But we can go through that, and then my idea is that you guys kind of write down with the Expo marker, here's what I think would be good, here are my pluses, positives, negatives, and then whatever your final thoughts are, you can use the Sharpie, and then I can take all of that from you and bring it to Stantec, have them redo it, the parts that you don't like, and make it better, and then I'll come back. I believe the plan is in August, and then we can go through it one more time, make any final revisions, and then September would be the final plans that would be brought to you, and then the second meeting of the month for council, it would be brought to them for approval. So that is, Phil looks a little concerned. So we can start with going through the feedback. Like I said, only one person was not a resident of Corcoran. Most people do utilize the amenities at City Park. So 25 said yes, 3 said no. I also included a question about if they participate in any of the city-run programming, just because I thought that was important to include. I mean, maybe that's the reason that they're using the ball fields or the soccer fields. You'll notice a lot of them said no. I don't know if that's because they maybe don't have kids and that's really the only recreational programming that we offer at this point. Ideally, I would like to expand that in the grand scheme of things, but right now it's just what we've had. And
I'll bet that's what it is. If your kid isn't in a program, then
that's
you don't
kind of
consider yourself a part of that.
Or you might
Exactly.
get people who just go to different parks besides City Park. Too.
Definitely, definitely. So the next question was, shown in the proposed phase one for City Park Remaster, what do you like? Exactly what you guys anticipated. The splash pad is one of the highest amenities that people wanted. I did not anticipate that changing at all. When we went back for additional feedback, that did not come as a surprise. Pickleball, it is a growing sport, so a lot of people do want to see that. Parking, people really liked. The playground, the ice rinks. And then the rest of them are kind of smaller numbers, but people did really want walking trails. That was a big thing for them as well. Things that people do not like, got a lot of nothing responses. So that was, I think, pretty good. It means that in the first round of this, with your guys' planning, people really liked what you had going on. Some people said that there was a lack of trails, and I think a good portion of that could be because it's kind of hard to tell in the gray areas where the trails are, the area that's grayed out, because there is kind of that highlight on the phase one portion of it. But other things, the rest of them kind of dwindled down in numbers, so location and amount of pickleball courts, a lot of people wanted to see more pickleball courts. Lack of basketball hoops, which, to be honest with you, I did not notice was missing until someone had pointed it out. And I can tell you that we do not have any basketball hoops in the city. So if that's something that is important to you guys that's noteworthy. Lack of tennis courts or no tennis courts. As previously discussed, the pickleball courts I envision would be dual lined, so you could play pickleball and tennis on them. It's a very common practice. There are nets that are adjustable. Otherwise, a lot of times people will just use the nets that are there, and unless you're an avid pickleball or an avid tennis player, you're not really noticing a big difference. But I guess it's dependent on what you guys see for a future in programming. Do you want to have pickleball lessons? Do you want to have those tennis lessons? Are those things that are you're very passionate about? If you want those lessons, then we should probably get the nets that adjust. Now, is that the end-all be-all in this planning process? No, but it's something to consider for later. Because right now, we're focusing on if you want to use them for both, then we got to dual line them, and we'll make a note of that. This is tennis and pickleball. If you think it's very important that we have them as two separate entities, we can also look at that. I know that there are many cities that do have issues with pickleball and tennis, and how the pickleball players really want it one way and the tennis players really want it another way. So do you want to have both? I can tell you tennis got really big and it got really important for a lot of people, and then it really died off. So
Yeah,
is
you
that
would
gonna happen
know,
with pickleball?
you would know the trends right now.
Yes, and
So,
pickleball is very important.
okay, yeah.
So,
Tennis, not so much.
Tennis is a dying sport, unfortunately. I mean, people still play it, but it's generally more at a leisure level, is what I've heard.
Question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Looking at the map, the pickleball courts look like they're facing north-south. Could we fit more if we rotate them?
It's a really good question. I mean, I could talk to Stantec. I would assume that they had it this way for, that's
would
how
assume
many they
so
could
too,
fit. But if you're looking for a staff recommendation, I would recommend doing more than 3. 3 is a really low number if you look anywhere. A lot of places are doing at least 6. 3, I can almost guarantee we're going to run into problems.
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
What can we do with the pickleball courts
Yeah.
once pickleball is not a thing anymore?
Tennis?
Then it switches back to tennis?
Yeah, I mean, people still use pickleball and tennis courts, and I've heard feedback from the community from at least 2 different members that they would like to see the tennis courts at least renovated, because
I would
they're
agree.
getting to a point that they aren't super user-friendly.
Well, I have several friends that are actually in like competitive tennis.
So that's where I'm like, do you want the dual line or do you want them separate?
Right.
Keeping in mind, if you do separate them, then that's even more space that you're dedicating towards it.
What's that grade out next to it?
The
32.
parking to the west?
Yeah, that's parking there?
Yep,
Okay, future parking.
Yes.
That'd be phase 2 or something.
correct, yep. I would strongly advocate having parking near your playground, splash pad, and pickleball courts, only because I'm not a parent, but I have seen parents struggle to get their children out of the car to a playground, walking around in a park.
It's tough.
Yes.
To me, like that
That
other
is
one
fine.
is in the plan for right now is 30 spaces, and that right there is like 32. So it would maybe make sense to pave or do the parking, like you said, closer to the playground and splash pad first.
Or maybe all at once.
If we have
mean-
them,
The problem is parking does get pretty expensive pretty fast.
yeah. That's why I was just thinking the most usable for those big amenities, maybe we would shift that.
And the nice thing is when we go to Stantec with your guys' additions or recommendations, they can make those adjustments, and then when I bring it back in August, if you get sticker shock and go, ha, no, then we can turn around and say, okay, maybe this is part of phase 2, and you can kind of offset which ones you want. Does that make sense? I provided the budget, but also keep in mind the budget is from 2021, and COVID has skyrocketed almost every price of almost everything. It's,
What was the original cost for the phase 1, do you remember?
the very original was 1.4, I want to say, but the last one I think was 2.2 or 2.4.
For phase 1.
Correct, yep. I lied, 1.8. But,
That's with the 30%.
and that's with a 30% contingency and only a third of the playground. Now, I was speaking with some of the commissioners before the meeting, and I would highly recommend, if you're gonna put in a playground, do it all at once. The equipment is going to get even more expensive, You're gonna have to stick with the same manufacturer more than likely so that everything matches and looks consistent. And you're probably gonna want it to look like one cohesive unit, and I can almost guarantee you that if we would have installed part of Wildflower and then another part of Wildflower, it probably wouldn't look the same. It won't fade at the same rate. They say it won't fade, but it'll probably fade a little bit. I don't know if you've been out to City Park, it's probably not the same original colors. And then when you're replacing it, you also are considering that.
Make a good point, and I heard back from Jessica
Yes.
on the bond issuance.
And I had her forward me the email so that I knew
So
what she
you,
said.
you can issue bonds for parks. She didn't get into all of the
Logistics.
details and how that would actually work, but when we get cost back, it'll be really interesting to see, because in theory, if you do more of it at once, you're saving costs than phasing it multiple times. Bonds are a cost too, though, and interest rates have gone way up, so it probably became less feasible in the last few months, but it's an option that we could suggest. We don't make that call, but if we think it makes sense, then we would send that to the council. So keep that in mind.
Go ahead, Michelle.
So I just have a quick question on the playgrounds. So I see like there's 5 spots with yellow, which indicates each of them is a playground, I'm assuming. Is that right?
Yes.
I love-
6 spots.
I love how they're spaced out, like, all around the entire park. I think that is really cool. Are they all going to be unique, like, from the same manufacturer, but like different ages? Or are they going to be, will they encompass, or haven't we gotten that far yet?
We haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
I would say, if you wanted guidance on it, the not grayed out part and then the 2 grayed out parts to the east of it, I would anticipate that'll all be from the same manufacturer and all kind of one cohesive unit. However, I would highly recommend having like a tot area, similar, Wildflower Park has the tot area and then they have the bigger kid area. So it's usually, I think, 2 to 5 and then 5 to 12. It's pretty standard. Just because then families can play together. Otherwise, if you don't include that tot area or you don't include that older area, you're having to split the families up, or, you know, Tommy is not enjoying it as much as little Timmy. So, good
Yeah,
question.
I think we did discuss that at one point, having the different areas for different age groups.
And the other ones, so the one in the pinwheel in between all of the ball fields to the west of the other playgrounds, that one is much smaller in size, but I think the idea was, it's just something for the families when their kiddos are out playing baseball, is to keep the little ones entertained.
I love that. I think
That's
it's,
huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll keep going through the,
I was just wondering about the pickleball orientation. Is that because of sunlight? Like, if they face it the other way, somebody's going to be facing south?
I would imagine that you probably do want them north-south,
Yeah, so,
just so that
The way
you're
it
not
is.
staring into the sun either while
Right.
you're serving or returning,
Yeah.
or.
But I think you, I don't know, I guess, morning and evening you might have that problem. But
Yeah, I
you've
suppose
got somebody
midday you're
facing
gonna-
south now anyway, I mean, the sun will always be an obstacle for somebody.
Yes, and we did get some feedback from an individual who said some of the ball fields were facing the wrong way, or only one ball field was facing the correct way, which
What is-
I could look into.
what does that mean?
I guess, in my mind, I was thinking, regardless of how the field faces, someone's gonna be impacted. So, I mean, I could ask, I am not an avid baseball or softball player, I played volleyball growing up, but I could look into it a little more, if you guys are worried about that.
I would guess it's probably the senior league one, because you've got, all the fielders will be facing southeast. And you should, they don't usually play in the morning, I would imagine, so you probably
Right.
don't have the ball coming out of the sun.
And I think they said only one of them was facing the right direction. So, I can look into that more, that's certainly an option. Other than what's shown, what people want to see, trails, my personal favorite, a dog park, because this just keeps coming back. Additional pickleball courts, a basketball course, or court, disc golf course, and then they kind of trail off again. Outdoor fitness area, shelter for events. I think it might not have been super clear that the pavilion that's out there would be staying. So,
Where is that on?
It is right next to the playground, the larger rectangle playground. It's to the northeast.
Okay.
It's
So
right
that-
off the
It's
corner.
kind of
like
like
a house.
Pentagon?
That'd be staying then?
Yep, yep. It's a
Yeah,
pentagon.
it's on there.
That's good to know.
Pentagon is 5, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Is there still is there a bathroom that will stay, or,
Well, currently, the only thing that's out there are porta potties,
okay.
so, yes.
With the splash pad, it might be nice if we can afford it to do a bathroom.
I would tend to agree, especially for like a changing room
Yeah,
situation.
I feel like
think
that's
you
kind
had-
of a non-negotiable for like, when you've got a kid that needs in the splash pad, like to take them out, especially if we enclose it like that, that's just a nightmare.
So we have plans for a bathroom up top?
Yes,
Right there? How
Yep.
small is that?
quite small.
Okay. And that's phase 2 or a later phase, so maybe.
It doesn't
that would be
have
nice
to be.
Include.
Are we
phase
keeping
one.
the hockey building?
For the first phase, yes,
Okay, then it goes away.
yes.
Okay, because I was gonna say, maybe you could add on to that and make that into more of a bathroom, or there's bathrooms in there already, but if you updated them,
That would be interesting to see if it was feasible versus getting an entirely new building,
that's what I was wondering.
because it might be on its.
Last leg.
It did get a new roof though, and they repainted it, so it does look nicer than it did by a lot.
I mean, when you remodel, you can pretty much make anything look better. Just a
We should find
suggestion.
a solution to people having to use the restroom.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
yep.
So make sure you're writing down what you'd like to see, and that's what I will take with. Additional programs, I just thought that might be nice because that could impact what kind of amenities people maybe hadn't thought about, but, you know, if you're looking for yoga in the park, that doesn't really require a lot. It just requires an open space. So, good on you guys for keeping that green lawn area. Tennis lessons, etc. Indoor soccer in the dome. The dome would likely be a very down the way part of the project. That would more than likely require bonding, Phil.
But I like it.
Other comments, only one of the new ball fields faces the right direction. Pickleball is growing, not enough courts. Better ground under the rinks to freeze faster, which I think honestly would just require refrigerated rinks, which is gonna get very expensive. I know that Public Works did purchase, I don't know what the technical term is for it, but like a tarp that goes underneath and it helps keep it cooler longer and last longer. So they've been using that from what I understand. Splash pad would be nice. Similar to Delano is what someone said.
That was me.
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted the Delano one or the Maple Grove one, and
Delano,
is that the
Yeah.
one that's fenced?
yeah.
Another question,
Go ahead.
sorry. So with the soccer dome,
Mm-hmm.
could you also utilize that for like an indoor volleyball courts?
So it just says sports dome, it's not soccer.
Okay, so it's not specific to one.
Generally, from what I've seen in my experience with Plymouth, or I went to another sports dome, but I can't remember which one it was offhand, but they're generally turf, so you could add it. I think, Anoka Ramsey Athletic Association or something like that they just passed a sports dome, and I think they were going to include courts inside, so
I
it's
know
an
there's
option.
you can cover the AstroTurf with like another type of flooring.
I wonder what the bounce would be like on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's
But just-
possible, but
yeah.
that's,
More money.
yes. Substantially, I'm sure. So with all of that, timeline, obviously today we are here, we're reviewing the feedback, providing any recommended updates to the plans. Between now and July, I'll go back to Stantec and say, hey guys, here's the feedback we got, here's what we'd like to adjust, can you guys update the plans and the budget? I'll come back in August and I'll bring you guys those plans. I would anticipate that would likely be a work session as well, otherwise it'll probably be a very long meeting. So maybe if you guys are good with that, tentatively plan. I know that's around the time of Country Days, however, this year it is after Country Days, which might make it easier, hopefully. And then after that, I'd go back to Stantec one more time, kind of give them a short window to make those final adjustments, come back to you guys September 15th, say, hey, here's the final plans, we're good to run. You You guys give me the A-OK, give a recommendation to council to approve it, then I bring it to council, they review it, say, yep, looks good to me. And then fall 2022, we submit for that Hennepin County Youth Sports Grant for $300,000, cross your fingers and hope for the best. And then at that point, if you guys wanted to go for bonding, Jess told me it would have to be by the end of the year because they generally only bond once a year. So that way we get on that one.
What would be, are we looking at like breaking ground then,
I think the game plan was 2023.
like,
So I would,
at what point?
I would hope fall.
Okay, I was gonna say,
For my
because I was
program's
thinking,
sake?
that's what I was thinking about when I,
We could probably get by without doing fall baseball if we had to cut one, which would just mean they could start September, which would hopefully be fine. We'd have to work with a contractor and start doing RFPs and bidding and all of that.
okay.
Is there any chance that we could use another city's fields program?
Yeah, because we don't want to lose like people, right?
Because I can tell you, if another city came to us right now, I have no availability. Just because of the toll that it takes on the fields, I'm turning away people at this point for even just field rentals, like athletic associations have reached out. The fields just can't handle it, especially since they're not irrigated.
Okay.
They take a beating with our own internal programs and the limited amount that I allow externally. That Public Works has given me the hard stop on a couple of times.
Another question.
Go ahead.
Sorry, some of this you might have already went through and I just wasn't here. But I have a question. So on the sports dome, and they've got us, like, wherever this came from, the design, 188 spots for parking, which we obviously need. It butts up to a residential neighborhood, and I know how residents feel about having a parking lot kind of in their back vicinity. So I'm just wondering if there would be any way to move the sports dome and then move the parking lot closer to the road? Like if you flip-flopped them? Or was there a specific reason?
They probably wouldn't want a sports dome in their
Either?
backyard either.
Yeah. Just a general comment, I guess, just wondering.
The nice thing is, you'll notice to the west of the parking lot is a vegetation buffer.
I saw that.
I have a feeling that's to kind of contradict some of the headlights and the noise. There's vegetation buffers along a lot of it. Not only on that west side, but you'll also notice it's on that southeast side as well, along the road.
Where their houses are, they're all.
Because I was going to say the same thing with like where the youth soccer fields are. It would make more sense to me to have the parking lot closer to the road versus, and then tuck the soccer fields in.
I don't
No?
have a real preference either way on it.
Okay, I just was curious, I guess, more than anything, because not that they're super close to the road, but like with soccer balls, I know how hard those can get kicked, and I'm sure there'll be a fence there and everything.
Well,
but-
and the nice thing is, those are smaller fields, so I think
Do you know like what, like you,
looking at it, I would say
12.
not even U10.
okay,
I'd say U8.
okay, that makes me feel better about where those are then.
So under 8 for those that
Okay.
might not be
Okay.
familiar with.
Although I still, so that's the one thing I know in my email I said to you is about having those soccer fields so far away from the other youth soccer fields. Like, would that be if we put in like a fall soccer and so, because having the soccer fields, like if you've got a little kid who's in like U4 and they're way down here and then you've got someone in like U8 up there, speaking from experience,
I kind of agree with you.
it's a pain, like, and my daughter's in the Delano, soccer, and they have the U4 like way across at the intermediate school, and everyone else is like over by the elementary school. And it's really hard for those parents that have the really little ones to try and, balance watching both.
Another alternative would be, I can tell you, we would have enough green space from looking at it. We'd have enough that we could get by with the soccer program that we have, which right now I believe we've got 401 kids registered without those 2 fields.
Okay.
So maybe that doesn't stay a soccer field, maybe you guys add in a basketball court
Okay.
that's missing.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's where the tennis courts go. But then are you concerned about the tennis balls? So that'd be the only other thing.
Well, and I guess, I don't know, like I'm looking at the sports dome again, and if you did move those other soccer fields closer to the other soccer field, could you put the sports dome closer to like the main roads versus tucking it way back into the park? Because I feel like that's like a primo spot. Like, back inside our park should be like where,
More green space? you mean?
maybe, yeah, versus having a great big building right there.
And there were people who were looking for more of a natural
Yeah,
aspect to the park as well. I guess it's kind of, how do you want this park to look? Do you want it to be more of an athletic complex? Do you want it to be more nature-oriented? You do have a couple of open space parks coming down the way, one in Bellwether, one in Ravinia. So it's kind of up to you. Well, it's entirely up to you. Let me rephrase. I'm just here to provide any feedback that I can as your Park and Rec person.
I'm just trying to think of like other parks that have really big, large things like located next to them. And I think, again, it's different if it's already there and then a development comes in and moves in around it. But if you're someone already here and then you have this big building moving in next to you, I don't know. That's my general comment, I guess. And I would think a dome, you would want to be closer to the outside of your park versus tucked into the inside, if it's a sports arena. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that, could we fit the sports dome?
I don't think it would fit. I think we'd have to
Does it
shift
have
the
to be
road.
this size?
And I think part of the reason the road was curving was to prevent people speeding through it really fast. I know that speed bumps and stop signs are also options, which in a park would probably be a good idea, but
Where does the regional trail go through? Is that part of the plan?
I believe it pretty much follows that road from my understanding. There's no real set to it. They're gonna adjust to how we have it. However, I will note, Three Rivers has stop points. I don't think that's their technical term, but they were looking to put a stop point in the park, which would include like signage about the trail itself, maybe a bike repair station, something of that nature. If you've ever been on one of the Three Rivers trails, they've got a few of them. It depends on what level of activity happens there. We would be the top tier of the stop points. So,
Well, most of those regional trails that I've been on don't go through there.
I don't think anyone's even there.
So
Right.
And then
I'm
have more
hopeful that if we
open
can
space,
have a
which would be
really
soccer
nice
fields.
design, it can help us to
Here, I don't know where you
get
put
off-grade
parking.
crossings, so that you can go over 10.
that would be nice.
and I think that's their
So you're
intent.
not, like, the big thing isn't it?
Because they have talked a lot about crossings that aren't at grade. And I think they said that at the last meeting, that they were looking, as things get busier, especially.
150 feet from the property line, so it's probably 200 feet.
They're coming in next week.
Which is
But that's not
close.
that
I just
far.
did the staff report for it.
Yeah, these things are tall.
Just talking about
The sports dome
the sports
shifting
dome
it,
again, shifting.
potentially.
Like if you were able to move the soccer stuff over and then, like that kind of S windy, it looks like there's like, I don't know, greenery or something on that main kind of S curve. I don't know what that is.
It's just
The road?
trees, I
If that's
think.
just a tree,
Yeah,
or is that a
just tree-lined
road?
road.
That's
It's
just
a
a-
road, but it's
okay.
got trees along
It's a
it.
So you-
road that goes
that-
through the entire thing.
Okay, so that could be moved though. So like if you shifted the sports dome over to where like the youth soccer stuff was, right there, and then moved the soccer fields over where the other soccer is, that would be an option too. Or you could slide the dome maybe up more towards the corner, and then maybe extend your parking along the road versus having it against residential. Although I guess what's across the street?
This
that
is
could
one
be-
house. This is not.
What is this, M&I Homes already?
Oh, is it?
I don't know.
Close, yeah.
It's
Do you have a
up
map you
there.
can put up there too?
Yeah.
That way, we'll look up
Yeah,
here.
good
so-
idea.
Do we want
like
Hennepin
that.
County
Yeah.
GIS, or do we want this map?
This one.
Okay.
Is Stantec the one that gave us these parking numbers for the amenities?
Technically, it was Wank,
Oh, sure.
but now it's Stantec, so yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I want to, and I emailed you about this too, because I really think that into the big parking lot, that seems like a really big headache with the 90-degree turn, and if you're trying to get like, people bring buses,
Oh,
like
yeah.
their teams into buses or equipment trailers, And you want them to use the big parking lot, right? Because they're a big bus. But getting in and out of there just seems like it's gonna be really tight and.
Over to the
Down,
other small one?
yeah, down here.
It's almost like a U-turn.
Yeah, like a 90-degree turn, pretty much. And if you think about even having like fireworks or something, like a big event, and then you're trying to funnel all those people out of one with a 90-degree turn, like the people that are parked right by the turn, like, good luck getting out of there if you're
Right.
last to get out of there.
You could just
So-
want the access farther south, so it comes into that main drive aisle.
I didn't know if they did that because they wanted it to line up with the one across from it. I know
Oh, sure
sometimes
they did.
that's the,
Yeah.
Do we have to have 2 exits from a parking lot for safety reasons or not?
It's strange that there's 2 for the smaller lot.
Right, I
Yeah.
just noticed that.
and not for the one that's really big.
I'm an expert at parks and recreation, not parking. I can bring that up for sure.
Yeah. that- to
Because
me,
it does
that's
make
big.
sense to have at least 2.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have been out to the park recently, but trying to get out of that big parking lot can be,
How many spots is that parking lot? Do you know?
That's my question.
well, it depends on who's parking.
What is it, like,
True,
what's its
true, but, like-
intention to be at, do you know?
I'm trying to guess.
If I had to take a best guess,
80?
Or bigger?
well, more than
No,
that.
more than that.
I'd say closer to 180, 200 maybe.
So this would be bigger, that's,
Yes.
then yeah.
Well, and
getting
the
that one
lines
area.
help. Now, to be fair, 180, 200 in the actual parking lot itself, but then people start to park in the grass during soccer season because there's just nowhere else to park.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I would like to see that.
Let's go, we can move like these up and these 3 here.
While we're talking about
And for more
parking,
like a soccer complex, that would be nice.
I like Lisa's idea of trying to get parking along the pickleball and splash pad and play area. I'm wondering if we could take like the bottom row of the 250 and leave that for future expansion and do those 32 as part of phase 1.
That was kind of my thought financially, yeah, because, I mean, we have that idea on this other one, so it would make sense to kind of jostle that so there's enough parking in the different areas. Because otherwise, would you just keep it gravel like that? That would be weird, I feel like.
Yeah. And I am trying to get this map up, but
That's okay.
naturally,
talking right over
technical
there.
difficulties.
Yeah,
We could even then take
Because
these
this, I
3
mean, really,
soccer
what does that
fields
serve?
and move
Yep.
those up here and
Yeah.
almost have like a
Yeah.
soccer complex for parents who have different ages. Kind of like the playgrounds. We're trying to keep the playgrounds.
Here's baseball, here's soccer.
Mhm.
I would agree. This should shift
I think so
somewhere else.
too. Okay.
Do we have any bike racks
Currently,
in the design?
in the, I wouldn't necessarily include them in the design. I'd throw that along with like benches.
So we'll have some.
Yes, yes.
I'd love to see like a soccer complex.
Especially if Three Rivers puts in that stopping point with a bike repair spot, I would hope so. Otherwise,
Concessions.
you're encouraging people to fix their bikes but not to lock them up. Okay, there's the map. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Do big complexes like this, Jess, do they have like more than one concession stand? Or is it usually just one concession stand? Because it's like, if you think about it in terms of grouping stuff, like let's say we regrouped the soccer area up into that left corner.
Yeah,
You know, do you just do one concession or, I mean, what?
I
is-
will note that more than likely, if it were me running programs, the likelihood that I use that northwest area for a lot of soccer programming, not as likely as if I would use this bottom part that we currently use, because then you can contain it all. And when you're seeing these baseball fields, they're not, I'm utilizing the outfield for soccer. I'm not sticking strictly to the typical soccer fields or like up here off of 10. It's not, it doesn't have to just be green space. You can use other alternatives. So yes, we could have another concession stand, but I don't know that it's necessary.
But like I was thinking if you moved, like how you have all of the baseball, softball stuff kind of together, which makes sense because of the shape of it. But like if you moved all the soccer stuff together, not necessarily have a concession stand there, but then if you have parents that have different age kids that are in different soccer programs, it's kind of like your playgrounds. You don't want to have to be running from one end of the park to one end of the park to down here to go see your kids play. If they're all in the same vicinity, that's why I just was thinking concession stand too, but maybe you just have the soccer fields there.
I think we're kind of saying the same thing.
Okay.
I'm saying all of the soccer would still be condensed into that same area that the concession stand is. Because if the concession stand is here,
Yep.
then all of the soccer would be still down here. Now, are you looking to add one kind of over here? Is that the plan?
Well, I just saw the typical soccer up in the corner, and so I was assuming that that was soccer, and then the other two youth soccers were more soccer, and then you had the ones over by the fields was more soccer.
I would anticipate that more being outside reservations, just because they are so out of the way. Lisa's point to, you're not gonna likely schedule some kids way up in the corner and then the rest of
Right.
them down. It just makes for really hard programming for parents and for the people running it as well. It's hard to go check in on those coaches and parents. and-
Right.
So,
So we shouldn't have them named soccer then, right? If
I
they're
mean,
not
they
really
can-
soccer?
they're just green spaces essentially.
Okay.
I mean, we could leave soccer goals up year-round, and then they could be utilized for soccer, but
Or we could make them something else.
Yeah, we should probably have basketball and tennis if we have all this other.
Yeah.
I mean, I
For
think we have
sure.
the room, we have plenty of soccer.
Well, yeah, or volleyball.
But I think
Yeah,
volleyball
volleyball
is
would be
still
good
in there,
too.
right?
yep.
Oh,
The
okay.
volleyball court is
It's kinda
still
hidden.
staying
Okay.
if we
I
go
didn't
with this
see it.
plan.
You see it, it's like right there. I saw it last minute.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's down by the existing wetland, that pond area. and
Yep,
then
I
by
see
the
it.
playground.
Thank you.
So what I'm hearing so far is yes to most of what's in here, with the exception of taking out maybe this bottom row of parking, adding in this parking lot next to pickleball.
I thought we're expanding pickleball.
What?
Aren't you expanding pickleball?
So that's the other question. Do we want to expand pickleball? Because that may end up going over more, but still keep the parking next to it. What's on here doesn't necessarily have to stay, but the more adjustments that they have to make, the more it's going to cost to make said adjustments. So that's the other
See,
thing.
I think we should.
I think as long as there's
Expand the
room,
pickleball
you could
that
probably take the parking spaces and have them be sort of the diagonal ones coming off of the road in that location. Because right now it looks like you got a separated drive aisle away from the road that you might not actually need. That would give you space to expand pickleball if you wanted to.
Well, but you want to be able to like open the like trunk of your car if you're getting out a stroller and, you know, all of the stuff you would bring to the park or a splash pad. So you'd want plenty of space to do that without feeling like you're getting too
In the
close to the
roadway.
road. Yeah,
Okay,
With
well,
little
you
ones?
know.
yeah, yes.
Parking lot rather than, okay.
Some of them are runners.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I also kind of feel like the existing volleyball court, if it's just like where the current volleyball court is, I feel like the parking isn't the greatest for that,
Which
that
part?
spot, for the current volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
Because would it be the pickleball court probably that you'd access to get there?
I would say the same thing for the pavilion then as well, because if you've got coolers trying to go over there,
Agreed. I don't think that's the best place for the
so
pavilion
more
either.
accommodating parking for those northeast amenities.
Or move those two amenities.
If you move those two amenities, that is going to be a pretty hefty increase in
Huge.
price.
Well, for the volleyball, you
Yeah.
can just have a pathway that
Yeah,
goes
you need a
between the
path.
splash pad, and that wouldn't be.
Probably a sidewalk or
The
something.
pavilion, that's 200 feet away. It's a long pathway,
It's
but
a really
So-
long pathway.
Maybe, what if I talk to Stan Tech about increasing the pickleball here, taking up those parking spots, but then maybe we add parking here, if possible? That would
is
be
this just
next-
open space, that whole?
I believe
That would
so.
make more sense, I think.
So then you'd be next to the playground,
Yep.
you'd be near the splash pad. I mean, honestly, you could probably convince your children not to go into the splash pad because they'd see the playground first. And then they don't even get wet.
Maybe.
And
That's why
then
we
you're
put
also
that.
closer to that bathroom, you're closer to the pavilion. Does that sound,
I think that's better.
okay?
Make sure the playground doesn't use sand, so that
Yes.
it's
Accessible.
Yes,
cross-contaminate the splash pad.
Rather than,
no sand, please.
Well, that's another good
Only
point,
on
because the volleyball court, that's pretty close to the splash pad. It looks like it is anyways.
Well, you're not gonna go from playing volleyball to the splash pad.
No, but kids
Different
could,
clientele.
kids could get into the sand though, and then go run to
Oh.
the splash pad.
That's why, part of my why, one of the several reasons why I think it should be like Delano, where it's actually fenced in and you pay to get in. It's just
Yeah.
so much easier if kids don't
That's a
have
good idea.
unlimited access to,
Everything.
yes, and back and forth and stuff.
Are you guys looking to have tennis and pickleball separated or together?
Common, makes sense.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like
If
they
we
should be separate if we're
expand
gonna be that,
pickleball,
if
though?
we're gonna be that busy with pickleball.
What if we did like, if we're taking out part of that parking lot, we do 4 pickleball and then a tennis? Would
Like
that?
for pickleball, I still don't think is gonna be enough.
You don't
You
think-
want the,
Okay.
the honest.
agree.
I don't know like
If you take that
anything
parking
about
lot, we'll have
pickleball.
6 pickleball courts.
all the pickleball
And
courts
then
go by our
we have
full,
basketball,
Really? Okay,
because I think
whether they're in a
basketball.
resident or a park.
okay.
I'm sorry, Phil, go ahead.
I think basketball courts are often used for tennis courts too, aren't they? If you have a full length one? Or
I guess
no?
I see it as a safety concern with the hoop. If you're going back to get the ball, and then you run into like.
Oh, isn't,
Well-
the net would be something that you, I don't know, maybe that's too much to put on everybody, but,
Farther back the hoop would be.
Right, and then you still have the poles though sticking out from the net.
yeah, okay.
There's a lot of transition with that. It's a more seamless transition for pickleball and tennis, just because
Yeah.
they're
Well,
both.
if we have 6 courts, we can probably fit in tennis,
Mm-hmm.
and tennis isn't as popular. And maybe when pickleball is less popular, tennis will become more popular. but- I mean, that's a lot of space to have. So I think we should use it versus having a whole separate tennis court.
Mm-hmm.
So dual line is what I'm hearing?
That's what I would,
I think
that's what I
so.
would say.
But what about, how big are they in comparison to each other?
What court size?
I
Pickleball
Googled it.
is generally smaller.
It looks like it's about 800 square feet for a pickleball court and 7,000 square feet for a tennis court.
7,000 versus
Because
800?
the link that I'm finding, maybe this isn't right, I've never played pickleball. It says that pickleball courts are 20 feet wide and 44 feet long, but tennis courts are 60 feet wide and 120 feet long. And if that's true, then maybe you want to keep them separated, because you can fit so many more pickleball courts in
True.
one area.
Where's the tennis court now?
We don't know yet. That's what we're trying to.
I was just talking to a friend today who's really into tennis, and she just plays indoors because, I mean, think of the maintenance of those courts that we have. That's why we don't play
You've
on them,
seen it?
because they're just,
They're really
yes.
bad.
Yeah, and she said having both lines is really annoying for a tennis
Oh,
player.
totally, I can see
And I
that.
never thought of that.
They butt heads
It's like-
really heavy.
Yeah,
That happens a lot.
so.
Well, and really, outdoor pickleball courts are gonna have to be taken care of too, right? It's the same material, so whether it's pickleball or tennis, there's still gonna be maintenance because they're outside.
Are the materials the same? Do we know?
For lining and the nets and everything, yeah, for the
Or
most
the
part.
Surface?
surface.
Yeah. They can be.
They can be.
I believe they're pretty much the same.
So the only issue is a real tennis court is a
Bigger.
lot bigger. But people do use pickleball courts for tennis.
Yes,
Okay.
or they use.
Or tennis.
courts
Or
for
pickleball, yeah, you
Not-
make them
not the
bigger.
other way,
I suppose.
right.
So these are probably pickleball courts. So even if we did expand, if we had them for tennis, we might not get 6 because we would need larger pickleball
Right.
courts.
True.
The whole thing.
So we're not really
Do you have the
gaining in
dimensions
pickleball.
of pickleball area?
Looks like it's.
I don't have dimensions on any of it, just because it's a concept plan.
Gotcha. Okay.
So my best estimate for that playground is me comparing it to actual city park and where things fall on actual city park versus
Yeah.
this plan.
There are some dimensions on the parking lots that you could try to scale it. Like the community building shows 75 feet by 125 feet. So I would ballpark the pickleball area at like 60 feet by 150 to 175, the way it's currently drawn.
So that's only one tennis court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are drawn as pickleball courts. on here and not tennis courts.
I think
However-
we want
Expand.
tennis, we might need a separate.
A separate,
Yeah.
or you look at the sports, well, that's coming later though, because the sports dome could be utilized for indoor tennis, right?
Depends on what the ground is.
Depends on how you set it
That
up.
might be turf or something.
Well, then you
I-
have time to see what's trending.
Yeah, we can
Right
always
then.
change later phases too. So these two youth soccer right there in the middle, one could be basketball, one could be a tennis court potentially.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
But
way
then
we'll,
keeping in mind, that wouldn't be until a later phase.
Right.
So how important is basketball and tennis to you in the current moment?
seems
Right.
like they're lower priority items.
Yeah.
So I think they're better in a later phase versus trying to force it in here.
But definitely a later phase, I agree. I
Yeah,
think
we
they
should have,
be
yeah.
Even just
So,
like a half.
tennis
court
in a
would be
later
good.
phase, I think. would
So I'm
be good.
hearing remove the youth soccer in the northeast, both of them
Call it basketball
for
and
tennis
tennis.
and basketball?
Yeah, unless we move the sports dome there.
Yeah.
So ideally, we would move the sports dome somewhere along the road, whether it's the northwest or right where the youth soccer is. But either way, you would have space to have a basketball court and a tennis court.
So you want basketball and tennis, if you move the sports dome along 10,
Yeah,
basketball and tennis where the sports dome is, kind of.
yeah, or in the upper left,
Where the typical
where
soccer
the
is?
typical soccer is, but
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What does this sports dome look like?
Um,
Is it
It's like a miniature.
like a what?
Like a miniature Metrodome, like a big inflated white tent.
it's not the prettiest.
That's exactly, because I'm
Well,
thinking, you
Maple
know what?
Grove has one.
Is that a central has?
Plymouth has one.
Yeah, that's not attractive.
No.
Yeah,
So why would you move it towards the road?
Well,
I mean, I
would
get that, I
much
get it, I
rather-
mean,
yeah.
functionally, I get it, but aesthetically, that's.
because no one likes to look at a road either, so it's
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
kind of ruined space. We'll keep the interior of the park green and open and nice.
Yeah.
Well, and there's probably trees along these properties
No,
back
there's not,
here. There's not.
road.
I'm just looking at.
But
it
back in
saying,
there,
you wanna have that in
it's
your
more,
backyard? Would you want to have that in your backyard? A big
look at their
dome?
yards, these are 2.5 acre, 2.5 acre. Their house doesn't go anywhere near it.
But you
So
can
you
still
wouldn't mind having that in your
see
backyard?
it.
Not at all.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind that at all. I would, you go look, drive down 50, see what I got. So,
Who's across the road there? Not that the property might not sell very near
That'll be
future.
Rush Creek Reserve. It's already,
that's already being,
That's
no,
all
it's
part of
just
that?
totally unattractive to me. I've lived down here all my life, and that's unattractive. That's not Corcoran. You know, and I get it. I'm sure we're gonna use it. We're gonna get, be able to do revenue and that kind of thing with it. It's not attractive.
Well, we don't have to have one. I mean, Plymouth
No,
has
no.
got one.
No.
Delano
Well,
has one,
I think that's a good idea. I just don't think we need to put it front and center.
Not this location.
Right,
Maybe
not that
future
location. I think you need to,
Yeah.
I like it where it's at myself. And I can see it being moved around, for, getting to it and kids and whatever. But you know what, when you're going into a sports dome, you'll truck forever to get to it, where you gotta go. But I just don't think it's,
I don't think it just belongs in a park, though.
It doesn't belong where?
I
In a
don't
park?
think it belongs in a park like.
At all.
How would we
this.
get it in a separate location? We'd have to wait for additional
Property.
park space to come up and then,
I can tell you, Plymouth they didn't redo theirs, but theirs is connected to like their community center.
there you go.
Yeah, that makes more sense. To me.
Just planting that seeds.
Do we have?
Sports
I don't know,
dome.
you guys.
yeah, I mean, it's a big ugly thing, no matter where we put it.
You'll never hear me
It
care
would
for a
be
pool.
nice to have it even in
Those
this
things
park.
lose
but
my-
I mean,
It's a
just
great-
not
Well,
attractive.
because
It
it's
doesn't
such
look like
a,
Corcoran.
no, it's such a pretty park, I think. with the way
Yeah,
it's-
yeah, we got a lot of natural areas.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah, sports dome is great, people would use it, but we can always put it somewhere else too.
So I'm hearing no sports dome now.
Wow, that's a big change. It's a maybe.
Where, is there like a space somewhere that the city is looking at doing a community center, or is that just like,
No, that was genuinely me planting a seed.
okay, because
It's in the comp plan.
I feel like I saw something somewhere.
There's 2 alternate sites discussed in the comp plan near where St. Teresa's going. But
Okay.
there's no plan to do it anytime soon.
Because I mean, I think that would be
A better
good too.
spot.
Yeah, next to a community
That would
center.
be a
It'd be
way
good if
better
we could
spot.
get that maybe.
And only
on
one
the
person
radar
said
sooner.
they want the sports dome.
You know whose idea it was originally?
Chad?
Chad. Where's Chad?
I think it's a good idea.
Dang,
but-
Chad.
I think it is a good idea.
But just not in the park.
Yeah.
When St. George builds and is
Yeah, I agree.
populated.
I think it's great.
And when Applewood is built and is populated, I would expect there will be demand for indoor walking space in Corcoran.
Oh, yeah, that's, and that
Where's
would be a good
Applewood?
spot for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which one's Applewood?
Applewood is Crook Lake.
We'll have them all eventually.
I'm sorry, what?
Crook Lake. Crook Lake
Oh.
Islands, that area.
Over by Lions.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I like the idea of connecting it to a community center.
I like the idea of keeping the park
Me too.
very natural.
With outside, more activities
Yeah,
than an
like more
inside.
trees, less buildings.
So would they rent this out?
Am I hearing a consensus of no sports
So
dome?
it is money.
What would you like
Not
to
here.
replace the sports dome with?
Make the soccer complex over there.
But it would be,
Well,
There's actually a rule that we
I'm
don't
sure we
allow
could come up
golf
with
in the
something.
park.
Yeah.
Yes, we just need
recently
signs about
changed.
that.
So I don't feel like that totally fits, but we
Look
can
at-
change it again.
look at, we're reducing that budget right now.
That's right.
Yeah, well, we
Walking path.
can have more trails then, that's what
Yeah.
people want.
Yes, trails around the creek.
Yeah, we could do a trail around the whole park.
That would be
That would be lovely.
Did anyone?
I would love that.
How do we feel? I
Sledding
haven't
hill?
heard anything, and I did not see anyone say anything about the archery range.
Yeah, I kinda liked it.
I do too. I think
It
it's
feels a
cool.
little bit Corcoran, doesn't
It
it?
does.
Okay.
What about like a sledding?
Yeah,
Oh.
that's what I had in mind.
Cause I assume we're gonna take out the like trees with the little hill in, right next to the gravel parking lot.
Beautiful hill. If
Yes,
it's gone.
I assume that's,
Are you talking over by the little t-ball fields?
is that, I don't know where T-ball fields are.
They're right next to this like pond. So you'd be looking at t-ball fields are currently right here. The hill is kind of along
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, with the big trees on it. Because we use that to sled a little bit sometimes, like after we've been ice skating, sometimes the kids are still little and get tired, and so we use that little hill
Brilliant.
to sled. So it'd be nice to have, if that's getting taken out, which is a little bit sad, but to have something else like that.
And where would you like to see it?
Well, so if you're keeping, if we're working with our natural resources, could you keep that little sledding hill and move the splash pad and those items to a different spot now that we don't have the big?
As soon as you start moving stuff, like if you're talking moving it to the
Design.
northwest,
then you got.
that would not be phase
access
one.
for
Okay.
water and all that.
Because they just connected, so,
Oh, the city sewer and water. Yep.
it's right
yep, yep,
here.
Yep.
which is why everything is kind of condensed. It also has a little less impact.
This part.
Wasn't the playground kind of up on a hill? Create
Yeah, it is kind of, yeah.
It's up a hill, create something over there.
So, okay, so are we basing a decision based on just because city sewer and water is here, that that's what we're going to do in phase one?
Well, so the splash pad would need city sewer and water, and if you're trying to move the splash pad to the northwest, your cost for moving sewer and water is
Very expensive.
gonna skyrocket.
Gonna be like the
And
whole
then you're gonna
budget.
get substantially less,
Right.
and then people are gonna go, we paid how much for what?
I don't mind where it's at, but.
Speaking of paying for your buck,
Yes.
what is the commission's thought on trying to target the playground to be sort of a higher end experience?
I love good playgrounds. You know, I have little kids, so of course I love good playgrounds, but, might be interested in that. I don't know what.
Do you have an example of?
What are you thinking is,
I
what's
think,
high
yeah,
end to you?
You,
I
The merry-go-round, you know,
when I,
like-
so I've got a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, so we've been doing parks for a long time. The ones that they like the best are the ones at Baker, if you've been there, French, and Central Park and Maple Grove. So they're a little bit larger, the equipment is larger in scale, they've got, multiple levels of things. And those places tend to draw a lot of people in because it's kind of a destination. And since this is gonna be kind of in our core downtown area, It can pull in Corcoran residents and non-residents, and they can start to experience whatever businesses end up developing in that area. With the regional trail going through, it'll attract a lot of people as well. So we can really put Corcoran parks on the map. And we've always talked about our parks are going to be an asset and an amenity to the community we want to invest in. This is a really good chance, I think, to take the first step in doing that and setting that higher bar.
And we've had a conversation about it a little bit over email. I will note, 2018 is when French Park was updated, if anyone remembers Old French Park. And it, in 2018, was a $1 million project. Or just park.
Park equipment.
Wow. How large are these 3 combined parks compared to like a Maple Grove?
Maple Grove Central Park,
The play area.
We ballparked it.
25,000 square feet. This is approximately, best estimate, 18,000 square feet. And French Park was,
About 7,500 square feet.
Okay, so I mean,
but it's substantially taller.
you're
But
getting
that
more
also means
equipment.
you have to close off a lot of the upper stuff a lot more. So I don't know if that's a safety concern for anyone, but
More
something to
costly,
consider.
yeah.
Because it's such a small container, if you're going up, it's closed off so that the fall zones are still accommodated in that container. So it's also about what vision you have for the playground.
Well, it might be nice, I know council has been talking about possibly having Maggie work to find out like what our budget will be at the end of this year for parks, based on development sales and things.
Kendra was working on that, yep.
Okay. Because I kind of like the idea of having it be a higher end. Something that, parents can come to along with the kids. Like I know I always used to like to actually get on the playground with my kids. And if you have a bigger, more high end, might be more appealing for parents too then.
Or if you've got a little one who's pretty adventurous, but you need to like
Support.
go with
Right.
them, yeah.
And if we
Not that I
post,
know anything about that.
and if we postpone the dome and maybe attach that to a community center.
It's already postponed, but
But like, if we remove it from
Sure,
this
yeah.
whole site, that's even more budget money we'd have to put
Right,
towards something like,
Keeping in mind, though, this is not the only park and not the only park project. You guys still have the boardwalk in Bellwether, which I would anticipate probably 250,000 to 300,000, somewhere in there. I believe developer contribution is approximately the same amount. We're trying to get final numbers on that. You've got the open space park in Bellwether. There's a neighborhood park in Bellwether. There's an open space park in Ravinia. So
well,
there's,
city park is something that everybody can use. So I think
everyone can
there's-
use all of the parks.
No, no,
wanna
I
make
know.
that very clear.
But I'm saying centrally located though. So the city park is more centrally located than close in proximity to an existing neighborhood is. So I think, my perspective, it would be more worth it to spend a little bit more on city park. And I know we've had other parks too, but initially on the get-go.
And I
what,
Totally fine with that.
what's our expectations when we get park land and we have a plan for a park, like you just named, I think, 5 different parks, right? In theory, we can leave it green space until we're ready to build, right? Because we only have so much money. Or are the expectations that within a year or two that we have something there?
What's your expectation?
Okay, good, that's what I want to hear.
Keeping in mind that
Yeah.
a lot of times, and I can tell you I've gotten quite a few emails from folks in Bellwether, the developers can sometimes put together a mock-up of what could go in there. So I've heard a lot about this dog park that doesn't actually exist in any plans that we have in Bellwether.
Tell them to talk to the developer.
It's generally close to the response. But, so with that, these people move in with the expectation that a park will be in there, or will be in there soon. So if it were me moving into a neighborhood and someone was like, yeah, there's a planned park going in here, I would expect that park pretty soon, because it's part of why you're living there, right? That's part of why you purchased that.
You could say the same thing about trails though.
Absolutely. But you at least have sidewalks. So, something to consider. So I'm gonna go through some of what you guys said, and if I missed anything, let me know, and then I can bring it back to Stantec. Otherwise, I am gonna have you use the Sharpie and full on write on your laminated pieces of paper, and I'm gonna take that from you. So originally we had parking by pickleball, but instead we're gonna expand the pickleball, move the parking north of the playground. Then we had Sports Dome along 10, where the youth soccer fields are, but now I'm hearing no more Sports Dome. Instead, where do we want the basketball and tennis courts? Are you guys picturing that still more over here, more over here? What do you want to fill that space with? And is there still the necessity for those playgrounds if you're putting, basketball or tennis?
Probably not.
Do you expand
For which
archery?
playground?
You mean the
By
little
the
indoor
sports
One in
dome, by the
between there.
sports dome.
Oh,
There's one here,
oh, okay, got it.
and then
Yep.
there's one here.
I would remove those. If they're intended to entertain siblings of people who are participating in organized leagues, and you're not doing organized
Agreed.
leagues there anymore, you can save that.
Yep.
Concentrate it somewhere else.
I also heard more trails.
Trail
Yeah.
around the whole park.
Yeah, especially along the creek.
Are there trails in M&I Homes?
Are you talking Bass Lake?
The ones right across the street?
Oh,
Yeah, they're off.
Okay.
These things change their names all the time. I forget what ones we're talking about.
well, we have the same builders building multiple
So, yeah, so what's the
neighborhoods.
one across the street called?
Rush Creek Reserve.
Rush Creek Reserve, but then there's Rush Creek, or Bass Creek down the other way.
Bass Lake Crossing,
Yeah.
north and south.
By
'Cause this
Lions
was a
Park.
peach tree
That
and it was
apple
a,
something, didn't
Yeah.
it? Apple something.
Yeah, it changed several times.
What is, Cook's is what now? Cook Lake is what, Applewood or
That's
something?
one part of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
The whole thing they called Cook Lake Highlands.
okay.
okay.
So what about if this northern area that the sports dome used to be, could we just keep that as a proposed, like maybe a green space for now, since we don't really know what's gonna go over there, and then move the basketball court and the volleyball court to where the youth soccer is right now? By 10?
I don't see why
Yeah, I
not.
like that
I
idea.
think that's fine.
Keep it more open. We could put a hill or.
Yeah, or it
field
just
or
gives
whatever.
us options.
And then we can decide, maybe we do have money for the sports dome and we do like that.
Right, later.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Or
soccer.
maybe a sledding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
maybe,
soccer
yeah,
gets
yeah.
crazy and we need more
Something
space, so
else
we
is gonna be
move it all up
popular.
there.
And then for the basketball and tennis, why wouldn't we have parking next to the road and have basketball and tennis where the parking lot is? That, or do we want it to have access to the interior road? Was that the, do you know if that was the thought process?
I think they just kind of plop stuff in
Okay,
and
gotcha.
want feedback, and then this is the kind of feedback that we're looking for. So,
I
parking
mean-
near the road?
Thinking about like people living across the street, it may be nicer to have like some fields and then have the parking inside versus having I mean, originally I thought the parking lot by the road, because then you could just pull in off the road, or wouldn't you do that? Are we trying to keep it
The
contained?
county probably won't
I
want
would
too
say
many
priority should
entrances, right?
Be in the park, so I'd rather not have parks, or parking lots scattered in
Yep.
the interior of the park. So I'd
Agreed.
rather use it against the road as much as possible, assuming that's
So are you
accessible.
anticipating an exit onto the road from the parking lot if the parking lot is next to the road?
Yeah.
Will the county
Is
go
that-
for
That's
that?
why I was
I
wondering.
feel like,
There's already one there now, so I can't imagine that they'd take the one away from us. It's
But it
not,
has
it's not
Parking lot,
listed
to-
here.
It's way, way south from there.
It is? Okay.
Yeah, it's down, the entrance is like,
But could we move it, I guess, is what the question was, if we only still had one entrance off of 10?
I think since this is an intersection and this part is 30 up until a certain point and then it becomes 50, they might not be as likely to go for it, but does that mean that they're not, oh, I'm just gonna apparently move this entire thing. I don't know if this is one main entrance, so that might be why they'd be more likely to go for it
Okay.
versus a main entrance and then a smaller entrance
Yeah. We could still have access off that interior road, even if the parking lot is next to road. So I would say flip them.
Would you maybe want vegetation on the other side of the parking lot, Michelle? Is that?
Yeah, for
kind of a
sure.
happy medium then?
Yep, I would agree with that. Definitely vegetation, trees. Because again, just thinking about the people on the other side of the street too. But if it's trees and then maybe there's a trail that kind of comes across
Yeah,
there.
this is a trail, right? This
Is it?
little mini road here. That gray line.
Where's that fence?
What is
Is
that
that-
line, do you know?
It's just a line.
Oopsies.
Maybe it's not a trail.
I couldn't tell.
I don't think that's a trail.
Okay,
Because
Looks
it's
like it
these
could be.
darker,
okay.
this darker is the trail. I think that's just,
Okay.
that's probably a
Curbing.
DNU or something of that nature,
Yeah, so if we just
step back.
plant a bunch of trees.
Well, or we plan a trail too. I mean, we can say we want a trail.
Yeah, we could do a trail.
I mean, how awesome would that be to be able to walk around the entire park? Still
Yeah,
walk
I think
inside the
trails
park.
all around would be
Mhm.
great.
That would connect each of the different little sections of the park.
Little off topic, we're getting rid of that gravel parking area eventually,
Which one?
right, down in the southeast corner.
The one where it says keep existing
Yeah.
gravel parking area? That was not the intention, no, to get rid of it. no.
Oh, okay, good, because I was just thinking about if the intention was to eventually get rid of it, I just think getting to hockey and the big bags that they have would be a pain if we didn't have.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Part of the reason for keeping that is that if there were maybe events that ended up there that
It would add
required
additional.
stages or bands of some kind or
Okay.
movies in the park.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good solid ground to put it on.
Oh, okay, okay, good, I just wasn't sure, because, yeah, lugging a lot of hockey equipment from either of those.
I don't know that it would be parking per se. Like, I don't think it'd be public parking. I
Okay.
think it'd be more,
Access?
Okay, because, yeah, that's just the one thing I was just realizing is that sometimes skates and all the stuff that goes with hockey and skating is heavy and getting there from one of the parking spots might be a little bit of a trek.
That's what you're thinking of, like that, right? Trees, parking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
something else to consider, and this is probably one of the last things we've got time for, because we should probably wrap up in
Build
the
space.
next couple of minutes, but, there is a community building that's included in there. It'd be like a warming house, but also a multi-purpose space that you could do events and programming and things of that nature, rentable more than likely.
Yeah.
And then as well as Zamboni storage and use in the wintertime for warming house. But is that a top priority? Do you guys want to see that in the first phase, or are we good with keeping that at a later phase?
Later.
I think later is probably okay.
Later phase?
Yeah.
I think to focus on the other
Feeling we're gonna
stuff.
be underwhelmed by what we can actually accomplish. $2 million.
Yeah. I agree.
Especially with a destination playground. That will,
Yeah.
that will substantially bring up the price, I will tell you that much. I think right now in the budget, it says $90,000, and we paid, I believe, about 95 when all was said and done with benches and wood fiber and the concrete around the outside at Wildflower. So that was also 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
And it was volunteer labor.
I think the volunteer labor was the difference of like $5 or $5,000, not $5. So grand scheme of things,
But honestly, we're spending a lot on utilities and infrastructure. And like 25% of the cost is on the actual amenities that we're constructing, which is kind of disheartening, so.
I was thinking that too earlier today.
it's sad, but it's one of those necessities.
Yeah, you have to put it in to be able, you don't want like dirt parking everywhere to your really great stuff. That doesn't really look nice either.
And I can tell you that we will get a lot more people into a parking lot if we actually have.
Have
the
lines.
So are we suggesting to increase the size or just increase the amenities? Because we could go further north on those playgrounds.
What do you mean?
If we want to get it bigger to
Yeah,
accommodate
I see
some of
what
those
you're saying.
larger.
Oh, no, I'm
items.
saying if
Can
you
we-
include all three of those, you can get a larger playground in there. It's just do all three at one time versus only
Got
the
it,
one
okay.
non-grade
Okay.
area.
Gotcha.
I think that'd be kind of cool to have the splash pad and a really nice playground
yeah.
area. That'd be pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
It'd be good to give residents some reward for all of the construction that
Yes.
has been
Yes.
done.
So do these others, I don't have little ones. I don't even have, my grandkids are grown up. You pay to get into splash
It
pads?
depends, like Maple Grove, it's just like fountains. It's not really a splash pad, it's
Okay.
just like fountains.
They pop out of the ground.
Yeah,
I've
yep.
seen those.
Like in Delano, it's like fenced in, they even have some like shade covers for parents, and yeah, you pay to
Little
get
dippy
in.
buckets and
Yeah,
stuff, saw one
yep.
at St. Michael, okay.
Yep, and then you can also rent it out in Delano. So they have certain hours where you can actually like have your kid's birthday party there. And you pay for it,
So
of
what
course,
do
but-
you pay to get into these? I don't have a
I
clue.
think Delano you can do a membership too for like the summer, and it's tiered based on residents, school district,
Sure.
and then non-residents. I want to say it was only like Delano was maybe $3 or something,
They're not
somewhere
usually that
between, yeah. And then because it's enclosed, like, you don't have kids, you take your kid to the park, but you're not equipped or not wanting to do the splash pad that day, and then they're not like running off from the park into
Because
the splash
if it's
pad.
Fenced.
Yeah, so that was,
So you're, okay.
yeah.
I like that idea.
There's also,
Huh?
$3 per day.
Is it? Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Pretty reasonable.
Is that for everyone, or is that just for the kids? Sometimes adults are free and sometimes adults pay.
Looks like it says just per person for
Person,
that.
okay.
They have like season passes and they
Yeah.
tier that out by individual or family, and then by if you're a resident, if you're in the
School district. Yep.
So is St. Michael the same? Can you tell?
I think theirs is
You seem
open.
pretty quick.
I feel like St. Michael's might be wide open. I haven't been there yet, but
Okay.
I,
That
for
looks
something
nice.
from the pictures, I feel like it looked like, that's on our list for this summer, is to check that one out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of
But-
by Cub and stuff over there, isn't that where it is?
Yeah, no, St. Michael just redid their whole, I think they just redid. Does that sound right?
I don't go that far.
Okay. I didn't know if you just
Really
like.
sorry, guys.
No, that's okay.
So, did we decide on, so if we're adding parking above where the playground areas are and the splash pad, are we going to get rid of the additional 58 spots below, underneath where that keep existing wetlands part is?
This part?
Yeah, because we necessarily won't need that anymore if we're adding parking above, right?
Or
It's more for hockey expansion, I think.
Well, there's trees along there, so.
Or
I don't
community
know about that
events.
either. If we got rid of the trees and maybe added like a better path.
Well, I'm just thinking if we're adding more parking, we can probably get rid of parking from somewhere else then, right?
at least some of it. yeah.
I think we were getting rid of this parking right here along the road.
Oh, okay.
Keep this and then take these.
Got
and
it.
Move them up.
I was just trying to like limit our parking, but I know we need parking.
We are desperate for parking,
Yes.
especially considering there are some added amenities. And with it being the regional trail as well, there might be people that hop on here.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Where does the regional trail go again, along in here?
Wherever you guys want.
Okay, so it hasn't been decided yet, okay,
It's based on the park planning process.
okay.
Do we think we could get additional donations, especially if we're trying to increase the level of amenity from Lions or JC's or other organizations that,
I know we went to the Lions and they were interested in funding. They had helped with funding or done the entire funding on the tennis courts. That was before my time, so I'm not entirely sure if anyone.
It does have a lion sign on it.
I know it's got a lion sign, but I don't know how much of it they covered. You guys, and the JCs did $100,000 towards the splash pad. which we do have and it's in hand and set aside, not to be touched for anything else. Locked box, for that.
Well, you can look to Hanover Athletic again. in the
They
future.
donated 45,000.
Right, but they've
So-
got the pull tabs at G's.
I don't think we came
What
up with
does
a
our
solution.
ordinance
We
say?
decided
on
it
how much
needs to be.
donations have to come back here?
And we do get some of the money for charitable gambling. I did talk to Jess, and before I show you guys all of my emails, just out in the open. So I talked to Jess Bizey about it a little bit because I figured funding would be one of the questions. For gambling funds, she was thinking anywhere from 75,000 to 100,000 could potentially be used towards phase one of the park
That's awesome.
from gambling funds. So
It's already been,
that's the JCs that gives money back because they have to, that's the Hanover Athletic Association
Yep.
because they have to, because they're at Mama G's. And
right. But, well, there's a certain amount, I don't know the ordinance, but there's a certain amount that comes into the city for whatever purpose.
We have
But a lot of times the
entrance
ordinance
for this
says that
parking lot
those
right
monies
here.
have to
That's
go.
exactly what I did.
It's
Okay.
youth
And
So-
then.
No, well,
things,
that's part of
parks,
it does.
and then there's some other stuff that I can
Then
go
this
to
one
as well.
comes in still here,
And to be very
but you
clear,
don't have bottom
Hanover and the
line.
JCs
Yeah.
donated
So here.
a combined
Me too.
145,000
Right.
separately from the
Right.
charitable gambling
You know,
funds.
like an off route or something, so it kind
So-
of curves
Oh,
into
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Right,
You
that's
get
separate,
plus-
yeah.
Yes.
And then there's still more that
Because
comes.
Correct.
just fix the
So,
others and make it
That's
easier.
145,000 in donations,
And then I wonder if we.
and
could
then
have
the
an exit.
75 to
Like, if we had a
100,000
Inlet and
is
then an
separate
exit.
from the
Yeah,
gambling
that
fund.
would be nice.
So if we just had 2 more bars, we could pay for this park.
Yeah, so just go open a bar back.
Right? I'm kidding.
And where are you gonna put that one? Oh, right by the road.
Oh, okay.
So parking, because we didn't really finish talking about the parking lot with the 90-degree angle turn up there. What about if on the north end of that 250 spot parking lot, we eliminated that one side to the left of the big parking lot and then just left the road going to the 30 spaces right now? And then when you first pull into the park, there's like a turn, not like a 90-degree turn, but sort of like a angled turn to get into the parking lot. A
Do you have
curved-
it shown on your map?
I will.
Okay.
And then the question was gonna be, you can only get in that way, and then you have to exit out the other side. Is that possible?
Why don't you explain that one more time?
My best answer is gonna be good luck.
Because it's off of County Road.
I just don't think you're gonna get people to follow that as well as you think it'll go.
Of exiting where?
If we position the road coming in the right way, though, it might be.
I think this road, though, isn't gonna be a one-way. It's gonna be both ways, so I think you're gonna end up having people who end up stopping and going, I can't get out this way. And then they're gonna stuck there, especially after like soccer or baseball.
They're all
It's gonna
converging.
cause more problems and more congestion, I think, in the long run. I could run it by Nick at Wank. He's an expert with turn lanes,
Okay.
but I think.
Well,
you're
it
gonna-
just, it makes no sense to have two parking lots be right across from each other and have that be your only entrance in on either parking lot and one entrance out.
I think
Especially if there's 300 cars there.
I fully agree that there should be another entrance and exit. I just don't know that you want to limit it to, this is only an entrance, this is only an
Got it.
exit.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
I think that's where you'll run into the congestion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do I need a motion to,
Nope, I just
Okay.
needed guidance on what you guys were looking for so that I can bring it back to
Okay.
Stantec and then go from there.
all right? So I think we need a little break before.
Well, we need a motion to adjourn, sorry. Is
Oh,
that what you were
okay,
asking?
yeah.
I thought you were looking for a motion
Okay,
for,
could I get a motion to adjourn the works?
Did you, hold on, sorry.
Okay,
Did you get more trees around the, like the actual structures? So parking lots, courts, things like that, if we could build
just
that
more
in there.
vegetation.
Yeah.
The nice thing is, especially, I'd also encourage it around the pickleball. That gets really noisy, and that's the other thing. I'm glad it's more in a centralized location of the park and not right next to someone's
very
home.
pingy.
It is loud, and that is a big contentious topic among the pickleball world.
The splash pad noise will cancel out that.
Yeah. Screaming
The
kids.
screaming children, yes.
Live down there. They don't ever see.
Okay, could I get a motion to adjourn
They
the
don't
work
have
session?
some down.
I'll motion to adjourn the work
You
session.
know,
Second?
all these people.
I'll second.
live down on 50.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Everybody lives on the other side. People are-
Okay.
We're out in the country and we're decent.
Recording stopped.